Mr. McVoy has arrived. Got to remember the code. Mr. McVoy has arrived. He has arrived. He's here.
All right, Madam Mayor, it's 6:04 and we are live.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular City Commission meeting of Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. Can I have the roll call, please?
Mayor Betty Rush,
Here.
Vice Mayor Christopher McVoy.
Here.
Can you speak into your mic, Vice Mayor?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Sarah Maliga,
Present.
Commissioner Kimberly Stokes,
Here.
Commissioner Reynaldo Diaz.
Here.
Thank you. Oops. Tonight, it's my turn to invoke, to be the invoker. And I thought I would look at just a different way of approaching this tonight. And so I went to an American poet, Ralph Waldo Emerson, about success. To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a little bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition, to know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. Amen. And Mr. McVoy will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any additions, deletions, or reordering, Madam Clerk?
I do not have any, Madam Mayor.
Anything from the bench, from the dais?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, so what can I say? Presentations, the PBSO Community Policing Update by Captain Todd Baer. And this is the semi-annual, correct? Yes. Okay, great, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me up here. Tonight it's myself and Lieutenant Lavinia. And yes, this is the community policing one as opposed to crime data. Next slide. Oh, I haven't done that. Beautiful. Tonight I'll cover the usual stuff, the community policing info, both outreach and problem solving, as well as our traffic stats. I'll go over the overdose data and a grant update, and most importantly, answer your questions. This is just a snapshot of some of the stuff we've done in the last 6 months. Of course, the PAL program is ongoing and thriving. We again did our holiday toy giveaway for probably the 14th year. My 9th, it was a success again. It was 400 plus children, probably 450 children, many of which would otherwise not get a whole lot. It was a great day. We had the petting zoo the whole day. I just missed you on that one, but it was another successful day.
Take a goat out of my arms again.
I know you like the goat. We do the Farmer Girl event every year with the Farmer Girl restaurant, which is always a nice event on Thanksgiving. Food for families, we helped an additional 45 families with Thanksgiving. The Legoland program just wrapped up. The lieutenant and a lot of the deputies took the kids up there last Friday. This year, 3 out of 4 elementary schools participated. Highland elected, the new principal elected to opt out of it. She had other priorities, but the other 3 all participated, and everybody made it, all successfully graduated. And that's our anti-bullying program. When Commissioner Stokes asked me, I called the Sheriff's Foundation, and they did give $5,000 for Highland to get the kids to the safety patrol in DC.
That's awesome.
So that was very nice of the Sheriff's Foundation. And then Benito Gaspar held a health fair in Memorial Park in the last 6 months. Not going. I'm gonna need help. More of the stuff we did, trunk or treat and Little Scream with the city at Halloween. This is the 2nd or 3rd year we did a Bark Back pet event at Bryant Park, which is always fun. The Mountain Unit visited Powell, and they've been visiting the city in general. They were just up at the beach last week. I try to get them spread around the 4 main districts equally. They are drawn towards the beach and the parks, but we try to spread them around. And then we just did the point-in-time homeless camp, as did the rest of the county, I think a week ago. And we were very integrally involved in that. There's just some of the pictures. The one on the top left is our hallway, all decorated up for the holiday event. So are several others. The bottom ones are the Thanksgiving event. The bottom right was an interesting one. That's Deputy Rothman. He does this a lot. He ran into that gentleman on a call. Not only was he homeless, but he had a wife and kids that are homeless, and he went and bought them a whole bunch of food around the holidays, and he put them up in a hotel for a couple days. He's done stuff like that quite often. He's got a big heart. More of the Thanksgiving stuff, and the bottom one is one of the schools with their Lego cars. And I've talked about this a lot over the 9 years, but they meet with the deputies every week for about 12 weeks. 1 week they build cars, the other week they talk about bullying and gangs and such, and then they go back and forth. And at the end, each school has a pizza party, races the cars on a big ramp, and then they all go to Legoland one Friday in February. It's been very successful. Historically, the principals have gotten back to us and told us that these are some of the most at-risk kids in elementary school, and 90-something% of them go on to middle school and thrive. So something's turning them around.
Are they at risk of being bullied or becoming bullies?
Becoming bullies.
Okay.
This thing is hit or miss. Okay. On the enforcement side, we've done one street level prostitution operation. We're doing them in the maintenance phase as needed. I'm seeing less of it. I don't know if you are. It's a combination of enforcement, and a lot of them have moved to apps and such where they're off the street a bit. We're doing them as we can. And we did one in the last 6 months. The railway safety grant we're doing is very effective and ongoing. The lieutenant works that quite a bit. I've mentioned to you before, I like this because not only were we enforcing railway safety with the Bright Line strikes and the other strikes, but it also saturates us and puts more deputies in the city, and particularly in some of the hotter spots. So it kind of has a two-pronged approach. DUI enforcement grant, you've seen a couple emails on that. That is a split grant that's controlled by traffic, and we're sharing it with Royal Palm. But they go back and forth between the two areas, and every time they do it, we don't get a ton of DUIs, but we get a lot of enforcement. We usually get 1 or 2 DUIs and a lot of just traffic enforcement. And again, it saturates the city.
Captain Bear, can you go back to the railroad safety? I had turned in one of the, on 12th Avenue, one of the light crossing was struck by a car and it has been down for quite some time. Is there any way that somebody can try to get that fixed? I've brought it to Jamie. I know that Jamie's forwarded it, but it's still down. And it looks like I said, it was part of a car accident, but it's still, I know that it's still down.
Ultimately, that's up to the FEC, but I'll see if I can reach out to them. I have good contacts not at FEC necessarily, but at Brightline, and they definitely would want to back up.
Thank you.
So I'll do my best. We made several, this is definitely picked up, we made several narcotics and particularly firearms arrests in the key hotspots in the last 6 months. I'll have a few photos, but that's just a snippet of what they've been doing. And we've executed several narcotic search warrants, again, a couple in real key areas, which is big. We've assisted the targeted violence unit many times, which was formerly the behavioral services unit. And then I reinstated the decoy vehicle program about 6 months ago, and I'm putting in a lot of commercial areas by the businesses, and they really appreciate it, particularly the stores with the shopliftings and such. There's a couple of the pictures from search warrants and bigger drug and gun arrests, but again, there's been many, many more.
Is it mostly fentanyl that you're finding?
Lots. It's a mix. There's still crack, there's regular cocaine, there's heroin, fentanyl, marijuana. It's a mix, but fentanyl's definitely right up there.
I have a question. You said that you had one prostitution sting, and it seems to have made a difference. If you had 2, would it make even more of a difference?
We do them. I mean, we're doing them when we're not doing something else. They're not as effective as they used to be. And what I like is we do them, we do the Johns, we also pick up the girls. A lot of them, it's hard to get the regulars. They know what we can and can't do, so with the Johns, we get the first timers and the ones that aren't so used to this. The regulars, it's harder because they know what needs to be said, doesn't be said, and same with the prostitutes, they know. You know, they keep changing the rules of the game without getting into too much detail, so it's as effective to just, you know, make encounters when we're watching them and no more cars and stuff. With the real
And-
Johns and the real prostitutes, it's as effective, or
And-
more so, than trying to do the undercover stuff.
Street-
But we do it from all angles.
Street presence seems like it would be a deterrent as well.
Yeah, we want presence.
Yeah.
We want presence, but we're also.
We want presence
we're running
everywhere.
Call to call to call to call.
We
to
need
call.
10 more cars. Mr. McVoy?
I think what you mentioned was that overall, what you're seeing, at least out on the street, has gone down some. Is that correct?
Yeah.
As far as everything.
Prostitution.
Prostitution, yes, we're seeing less than what we used to see. When we do these, the numbers are a quarter of what they were when I was out there doing these things. And
Right.
again, that's part the fact that there's less, part the fact they've shifted to where there's
A different
apps and
model.
such. And partly the fact that the rules and engagement have changed, you know, what we can and can't do and things like that. So it's a little bit of everything. But we attack them from other ways other than just an operation. District initiative wise, we've done 3 in the last 6 months we're really focusing on, and they're still in 2 of them are still in operation. We have an outright citywide homeless initiative that we're working, both enforcement and social service type activity. A Bryant Park initiative in general, which kind of in some ways those cross. And then 1000 South J was a hotspot for drug dealing and such, and we just wrapped up a search warrant there. That was one of the photos you saw. Nuisance abatement cases, where we work with the city attorney in the city. We did 4, 100 Block North Federal, a convenience store. Had a lot of issues with alcohol and drug dealing and such. 600 South Dixie, that bar, that's had its own issues. And
Mambo.
2100 10th North is a
It used to be the
hotel.
Mambo.
That is a hotspot for us, the hotel on 10th Avenue North, for a variety of reasons. And then 900
What
North Dixie
hotel?
was that, wasn't a typical bar, but they voluntarily shut down. And that was a hotspot with operating as a bar.
That was after hours when we were getting all the complaints.
That
Oh,
was a kava bar, but they were operating as a
Right.
impromptu nightclub bar. And once the owner of the building found out, everybody just kind of shut it down.
The 600 South Dixie Highway, I'm not picturing, does anybody else know where that
That's
is?
oh, I know exactly where it
Yeah,
is.
that's the,
It's the old Mambo.
yeah, and they were operating a food truck, so it was able to be,
A lot of stuff.
Pick it up.
To be fair, he's complied, and we don't have a whole lot. there
I don't know
now.
what it's called now.
the street name is
know
Chino's,
Nino.
yeah.
Chino's.
But
On the west, on the east side.
it's on the east side, southeast.
Just next to
yeah.
the,
So they weren't operating out of the building, they were operating out of a food truck. And, you know, I know that was such a massive hotspot, and I hope now that that food truck went away, it had gotten significantly better.
Out of the 4, that was the least hot and the most cooperative. But yeah, it was bringing a lot of activity and to include everything such as vehicles, first pedestrians, vehicle crashes, just all kinds of activity. But he has been the most cooperative of the 4 and the least problematic, to be fair.
that's good to hear. Hotel on 10th Avenue North, I can't even.
That's west of I-95, right?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, that's too bad.
All kinds of stuff. But
That's a new
we're
restaurant.
working on
That's
that
a-
one still. Traffic-wise, the citations and warnings are up from the last time I did this, and DUIs and hit and runs and crashes are down a little bit. So taking that as a good thing, but that is still an incredible amount of crashes in a 7 square mile city in 6 months. When you throw the 2 together, you're 940 crashes or hit and runs and 60 DUIs. That's a lot of crashes in 6 months in 7 square miles.
And traffic, I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but traffic, even like downtown, has gotten crazy. I mean, it just is really, really different than it's been.
Traffic is another district initiative per se. It's actually like a county-wide initiative. Bad behavior, traffic-wise, kind of got increased during COVID when we were kind of backing off of traffic encounters, and it just never got better as we opened back up. We're more fortunate, our highest speed limit is 35 miles an hour in the city. There's districts where, you know, they're doing triple digits on a regular basis on more highway-type roadways. So traffic is an issue for us countywide and probably countrywide, but that is another initiative we're pushing to the deputies. We were at lineup tonight and, you know, mentioned traffic.
There's just too much of it. Mr. McVoy?
I noticed that, no, if you can go back one, whoops, you probably didn't attend the move, yeah. So the crashes, the hit and runs, we don't know too much about because they're gone, but the crashes, you do have statistics on, I imagine, 700 and less than a tenth of that DUIs. Does that imply that of those 700 crashes, there was no alcohol involved in those, or are you just listing DUIs as a separate thing?
The DUIs could be part of a crash or they could be self-initiated from a traffic stop. So I wouldn't read too much into that. I'm sure some of the crashes may add alcohol, but not to the point where an arrest was made.
That's interesting. I would have,
But for the most part, probably not.
because what I see around town a fair amount is, I usually see the car parked on the side of the road and somebody has hit it. And I'm assuming, without any further information, is that somebody did have too much to drink and hit it and either hit and ran or hit it and did get picked up. And I'm concerned whether that's a pattern that you see a lot
I would
or
say
not that
A lot of
much.
the hit and runs, a good chunk, it's hard to say because they are gone, but a good chance those are more of the DUIs than the crashes. But people do hit and runs for all kinds of reasons, you know, maybe their license is suspended. I mean, it could
No
be a
insurance.
variety. They're scared, it could be a variety of reasons, but I would guess a lot of the DUI, you know, crash related or the hit and runs, in our experience. Overdoses, the good trend you're seeing is they seem to be going down. September, I still believe, was an anomaly. That was when I reported last time to you guys, and it was hot off the press. There could have been a few more that month, but it's been generally trending down. I think that's a combination of things, that A, it is getting better, but B, there's the prevalence of Narcan. Now Narcan's readily available. There are probably lots of overdoses happening, the non-fatals that we never get a call being asked for fire rescue because of the prevalence of Narcan. So the non-fatals, it's hard to, now that that's out there, it's gonna skew the data. The fatals, it should be still accurate. So
Miss-
you can use that as a gauge.
Ms. Malega?
So when we get an email and it says that you guys were called out to the scene and you arrived and somebody was deceased from an apparent overdose, does that go into this data, or is this only ones that you help revive?
No, this top light number are the fatals and the dark numbers are the non-fatals. But
Okay.
yes, those would go in there.
So those go into that data?
Fatal or non-fatal, those are all in there. That's
Okay.
right where she's pulling the data.
So you don't usually wait for like the chemical test to come back, the toxicology test to come back to lump
That
it
is
into
a
that?
factor in some of them, but I'd say 99% of them, we know.
Okay.
And we don't get too graphic in your emails.
No, understood. Thank you.
Please don't. Save the details.
Grant update, I mentioned them earlier, but we're well into the $140,000 enforcement update, grant. The second one, we're working with the FRA. They chose us based on the volume down here as a possible secondary spin-off grant for infrastructure. That's still early on.
What's FRA?
Federal Railroad Association.
Thank you.
And I can't remember it's another federal agency that's looking at the infrastructure grant. I know we've been involved in it. I would love to see some of our smaller intersections hardened, like the larger ones. That would be helpful, where you can still slalom around the gates as opposed to the main intersections where you can't.
It's double, yeah.
And then there's other things, signage and mental health stuff. So we're trying to get that grant, although it wouldn't be for enforcement on our end, it would help you guys on the infrastructure. We've met one time, they all came down from Washington, so it's still to be determined. And then the impaired driving grant I mentioned, we're splitting with Royal Palm, the $75,000 in overtime, and traffic handles that and goes back and forth between us.
Ms. Malega, and then Mr. Diaz.
Thank you. I had brought up, I think not the last update, but the one before that, that Lantana has installed cyclone fence along.
Lantana didn't do it, Brightline did it.
So
Brightline
I know
did
that
it.
it's not beautiful to look at, but when the majority of the community in District 1, I know, cuts across the railroad tracks, do you think that maybe we could look and see if Lantana has seen a decrease in possible fatalities? Because I will do anything to protect people. And to me, if we have to put up a fence or something to, I know Jamie's over there shaking his head, if we can get people to stop cutting across the railroad tracks, and, you know, we have to come up with an ingenious way to make it prettier than what's currently in Lantana. I just think that whatever we can do, we should do. And if it's to prevent people from cutting across the tracks and possibly getting hit, like we had one 3 years ago, the kid had headphones on. He wasn't even paying attention. And I knew that kid personally. So to me, it's just, yes, it is education, but if we can help detour and educate at the same time, I think that it's worth us looking into.
I will reach out to Lantana, that's a good question to see if, I'm sure they keep data to see how much it helped. Yeah, Brightline did that, and lobbying Brightline to do at least portions of our city. You know, that was 1 square mile, or 1 linear mile for them. We're 3, I believe, and we have the 2 railroads, but they did that, and to include the landscaping and everything, so I lobbied to them to make us next.
Mr. Diaz?
I think Mr. Brown had a response to that, if you want to go first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I actually have already spoken with Lantana a little while ago. Has not helped, from what I was told, mainly because when Brightline did the install, they only did certain sections.
Right.
Only on one side of the tracks.
Great.
And then they stop, and then there's some landscaping, so they say now people just cross between the fencing and the landscaping. So there is a benefit if you do both sides of the tracks, and you actually go from intersection to intersection, so you don't have those mid-track crossings. But if you're only doing a couple sections of 50 feet here and there, people just walk right around it.
A chain is only as strong.
Yes, so I have spoken with the actual, not Brightline, but Lantana, to see how they feel it worked. And that was the response I received.
Mr. Diaz?
About the impaired driving grant, because this was actually discussed at TPA. It was a question that I had for our staff over there, and it was a question that was spurred because recently, like, it's always a priority that the state takes DUIs seriously, but the first question I have is, I know it's a struggle when a deputy makes a DUI arrest, he's done for the night. He's booking his person, and he's hanging out with them for a long time, and that's basically most of his shift. And I know can be a big deterrent. And so does this grant like bring additional people to the presence we already have?
Yes, when they do these grant operations, none of them are coming out of our patrol deputies
Okay.
that night. They may be our patrol deputies that are off or something like that, but they're all traffic or deputies that are extra. And it's, unless you have to go to the hospital, it's not the whole night, but it is longer than most arrests. It can
Yeah.
easily be 2-3 hours. We're lucky, we bring them to the jail, and the BAT does a lot of the work. A lot of the cities do their own, and it could be the whole night. So ours is a little quicker, but it is still a lengthy arrest. But it's a really good arrest. A lot of fatalities come from DUIs, as you all know.
It is, and that was my next question, like, because the state is recently looking at, and it's helpful for us at the TPA for long-range planning, is that they're looking at collecting data more on the other vehicles that you can get DUIs on, scooters, e-bikes, LSVs, and I'm just curious, like, is there like a focus on those, or is that just like part of overall option?
The lieutenant works quite a bit of
Yeah.
these. I don't know, I'm gonna defer to him.
There's not a focus on any type of vehicle,
You're
it's
just
just
in-
traffic in
yeah.
general, and they pull out cues for potential intoxication, and then conducting traffic stops and doing investigations from there.
Right.
Doesn't matter the type of vehicle that it is.
Okay, yeah, because it's an interesting cultural phenomenon. It feels like there are some who, you're driving an e-bike or an LSV or something, and they feel like the rules don't as apply to them as much as cars, which is wild because it reminds me of, I remember in one of my first class in law school, we did a DUI case where the person got, it was a motorized cooler. So you can, as long as it's motorized and you're operating it, which is something that I think many people don't seem to
Even
understand.
bicycles, it doesn't have to be
bicycles, yep.
motorized.
I was just gonna say, there's a frightening increase I mean, the streets are dark at night, and on an electric skateboard, or on those one-wheeled amazing, I don't know how they don't fall down and break their legs, things, and they are kids, and they wear dark clothing, and I almost hit one the other night, and I don't know how to handle that. I don't know what to do about that, because it's very frightening.
Well, and that's why I think we had that conversation. The state is looking at collecting that data, because it's like anecdotally, we kind of know what's happening. We know that, LSVs, people in small towns will drive to the bar and drive home, and it just increases the risk of that.
What is an LSV?
Low-speed vehicles. It's like,
Like a golf cart?
kind of, yeah, they're in that category. And it's just like an increasing problem. And the sad part is the state doesn't really have the data singled out to show that. So there is starting to be a focus, which is good.
Mr. McVoy?
I agree with you. I also see a lot of folks, mostly on bikes, in dark clothing and no lights on the bikes. I've wondered, could either PBSO or the city or both or the CRA participate in some sort of a program to give out, I know the giving away I'm not crazy about, but give out bike lights. There seem to be fairly decent flashing ones that aren't terribly expensive, and maybe even the reflective vests. Because I agree that, the chances, it's quite possible to hit somebody without, knowing that they were even there. And if there are no lights and they're black clothing, it's just really unhelpful. And some sort of education program. I don't know who would do that necessarily, but the need is here.
I think the CRA, isn't the CRA doing something?
There are organizations that do. The sheriff's office participates in a pedestrian grant, which a part of that, the group that gives the money for the grant to do that enforcement and education hands out a bunch of bike lights, and we hand those out and document who we're giving them to. And we put them on their bikes front and back.
Where
Well,
would
that's
you
even
put them on
better.
that little
Yeah,
one-wheel?
rather, make sure that they're actually installed is great, yeah. Yeah, because I don't know, people think it's too expensive, or I don't know what they're thinking, but it's not helpful. I had one or two more. On something that we hear a lot, and you hear it from all sorts of different parts of town, oh, we never see any squad cars, they're never around, they never come by. And this is where I get to practice my poker face and say, well, actually, they go around quite a bit. But I have often wondered over the years, it would be nice if I could come back with some sort of data. And what I've always thought of is, I imagine you guys have GPS units in the squad cars. What if there was a heat map that just showed where the cars have gone, no particular time? It wouldn't necessarily have to be presented to the public, because I can see some reasons why you might not want to, but at least presented to the city manager or the commissioner or something, and we could say, look, we've looked at them, looks like pretty even coverage. Yeah, there's kind of a hole over here. Can you guys do a little more there, or whatever? Or is that something that PBSO would ever consider?
That could get complicated. The whole GPS in the car is frankly a union thing, so we are regulated when we can check their GPSs and such, but I could look into it. I mean, I can tell you anecdotally, they're out there. I mean,
That's what I have too, yeah.
Typically, we throw out our assignments, and they're equally spread among the city. But then as soon as the calls start coming in, they go where the calls are.
Sure.
And they go back and forth all night. So if you're in a quieter area, you may or may not see them. There's neighborhoods where they see them every day, all day, going back and forth the calls. It depends. I can tell you, I never see a police car go by my house. But I also don't look out the window more than 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there at the
Right.
most. So
Right.
that's another thing. I asked them, did you sit and look out your front window for 8 hours? Because if you don't, you're probably not going to see them. If you
Right.
drive around town, you'll see them. And then we had a particularly big uptick last year in crime after several double-digit decrease years, and they're busy. And then you throw on top of that the body cams. The body cams are great, industry standard, the whole 9 yards. They're not going anywhere. We want them. They help us when they hurt, all that stuff. But they also take up a lot more time than they used to. They have to upload, download, bookmark, file. You went from having circumstantial evidence to your entire call is on video. And if you're gonna write a report about your entire call, you wanna watch your call, so you're not accidentally misappropriating what happened. So it has added time. A lot of times people say, I saw them sitting there, the two of them sitting there at the gas station. Odds are one's looking around for safety and the other one's catching up on 6 reports and videos and things like that. On occasion, they are probably having a coffee and talking. I'm not gonna say they're working 24/7, but it is definitely added when you don't see them running radar, you don't see them doing something. Call volume's up and then complexity's up. When I was out there, I wrote down what happened and that was it. Now the entire thing is on video. That's a game changer in a lot of good ways, but it's also more complicated.
Time consuming.
So a lot of times they're sitting there writing reports. They're out there. You guys are well staffed for a city this size. You're saturated with deputies, and that's a good thing. And I could still use more, but you have a lot of deputies.
And it would be public record, I think, if.
It's public record.
It would be,
It's just-
what
I don't
you
wanna
what you're
promise you
talking about,
something
that
I
would be
can't
public
deliver.
record.
I can look at it for those purposes. I'm not gonna use it to discipline anybody, but I'm
Okay.
gonna see what I'm gonna see. You're gonna see that they're not all, sitting at the station or something. They're out there.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't want anything that identified individual cars or individual officers, just, where did stuff go?
That I-
And I don't particularly need it, because I feel reasonably confident that you folks are out where you need to be and you're doing calls when you're not just out and about. But it is something that comes up regularly, and it comes up in a lot of different neighborhoods. And
You've been hearing that since police were.
Really? Sarah?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So a couple things. You and I spoke about a month and a half ago in regards to the data that's in the back of these reports, that I'm one of the weirdos that actually reads. How do we help keep multi-felons off of the streets of our city? Because when I read a report and you're arresting somebody with a handgun and drugs, and they're back in my city and they're on their 5th felon, it infuriates me, as you knew by my phone call. So I apologize, but how do we, as a commission, you and I spoke about, we have the same amount of judges and the same amount of courtrooms. But I feel as though, as an elected body, there should be something that we can do in regards to putting pressure on the prosecutor's office. I don't know how, can you help guide us in the future on how we can help keep these people off of our streets? Because to me, a 5-time felon should not be wandering my streets with handguns and drugs.
You're opening a box here.
But on that note, I want to say thank you, because we are starting to do crime walks again, so thank you for scheduling that, being vigilant. But I would like to know, as a body, instead of you guys always getting, you're not around, we don't see your cars, we know that you're doing the work. I read the reports, but to me, you continue to do the work and then they're right back out on the streets.
5's nothing, by the way. 5's just a start with felonies.
Thanks for the good news.
Like you said, that we're the face of the criminal justice
Right,
system.
I understand
We're
that.
a part of it. You got the judges, the lawyers, the courtrooms, the whole probation, parole. We take the brunt of it because we're the face and we're the
Right.
first and probably last ones you deal with as a victim, witness, such. It is a big part of the fact that we have the same courthouse, same courtroom, same number of judges, public defenders, prosecutors, probably that we've had since 1990
horrible.
something. COVID didn't help. COVID made it worse. There was probably a year where there was no trials, so they're backed up. The first things to go are crimes where the victim is state of Florida, the drug crimes, things like that. Second thing to go are property crimes, and then lastly, violent crimes. So that's a bigger issue than just.
That just blows my mind that drug crimes would be one of the things to go.
State
I
of
mean-
Florida's in the victim slot. So of course, they're gonna be the first to go. There's no person's name there.
How do we, if it happens in our jurisdiction, isn't there a way that the city of Lake Worth Beach could be listed as one of the victims?
No. What we try to do on the positive side, and there's no awesome answer to this, and this isn't a Lake Worth problem or a Palm Beach County, this is like a United States of America problem in any busy jurisdiction. What we try to do is, that's where we get, there's only so many hours in a day, I can send out my deputy, and we try to make the best use of their day when possible, factoring in calls for service that have to take priority. But we try to make relationships with the state attorney's office. We have one of the most senior ones in the state attorney's office is our assigned prosecutor. We don't run to her with every single arrest and go, this is the crime of the century, please put, him away for life. We try to pick and choose and go like, hey, you see our volume, we're coming to you with this guy because this guy needs to go. And they're generally receptive on that. But you do still see ones that when they sent out, it only triggered my mind because I'm like, that can't be the same guy I was arresting in 1995.
And that's insanity to
And he
me.
was with 70-something serious felony arrests. So you just saw, if you read the news tonight,
It's insane.
the Gardens Mall, the suspects, they each have like 10 felony arrests
Right.
each. It's common, it's very common in not only Palm Beach County, but everywhere.
and you're out.
That was a California thing and everyone thinks that exists, but to my knowledge.
It had some it also Texas, they had some very bad consequences from it too. Like the third one would be like he held up a pizza delivery store and he went to jail for life kind of stuff. So that was a little
And there's those
harsh.
ends of it, and the national trend is towards less
Right.
incarceration and more rehabilitation, and that's a bigger discussion.
As if they'll ever
than me.
finance it.
Believe me, we get frustrated as well, and that's when you're asking us to do certain things, and we're like, we just know they're gonna be back out here before we are. We're not gonna be back and have our videos uploaded and our paperwork done, and they're already back on a free Palm train ride.
Frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
It is frustrating. Sometimes we, may not voice it properly, the deputy level, like, that's when they say what they're not allowed to say, like, there's nothing we can do.
Right.
But they just know, they're like, you want me to come out of your neighborhood for 3 hours only to come back and the person's already back.
And I've worked with the police for a long time. It's frustrating because you want to do your job, you make the arrest, and they come back out. No, thank you, because I needed that right now.
I'm just kidding.
And we don't have enough judges, we don't have enough courtrooms. I do family law, and in last October, I have a trial set for this coming September. Almost a year before we can go to trial.
COVID really set it back.
Yeah.
And then they know the system, and if everyone challenged every case, there's no mathematical way we could even come close. So it's nobody in particular's fault, it's a system that needs fixed.
Well, it's too many people, and it all boils down to education. If you can just follow it down to the educational system and parenting and stuff, so. All right, well, now we've identified the problems with the world, let's solve them. Mr. Boyd, yeah?
I assume that another frustration that I hear from people in the community is, well, we know that X location is dealing drugs, whether, whatever it is, and I try to tell people that for that to stick, you guys have to assemble quite a bit of evidence, and it may take a while to do that. And, seeing somebody once is probably not going to cut it, particularly with the kind of concerns about the judicial system that you've raised. I would like to add on to what Commissioner Malega said is, obviously legally, mechanistically, there's probably not much of anything that we as a commission can do. Is there anything that we can do in terms of, it's kind of lame, but the commission writes a letter to the prosecutor's office and says, hey, grant us a couple more cases a year, or we show up for some things, or is there anything that you can think of that would let us make a little bit more noise that we?
You could try it, I don't think so.
I have a response to that,
Okay.
which would be, having been a former intake prosecutor, if you have the reputation, if your department has the reputation that when you walk in, it is a serious crime, you're not bringing them junk, your reports are well-written, your evidence is straight, that does that.
Yeah, which
does that.
it seems like we're doing.
Yeah.
That helps, and that's what we're doing. And
Right,
they
you have-
know right
it's-
down to
everything's
the
a reputation.
deputies. They know right down to the officers and deputies, when they meet you,
Sure.
they'll be like, oh, wow, your reports are good, or or I guess they don't say anything.
I used to
that's
kick
not.
them back. I would kick him back. You want me to prosecute some guy? I can't read
You can
this
tell if you're
report.
not getting kickbacks or no files,
Yeah.
they call them, that you must be doing it right. And that's the thing, we don't want to run every time, this is it, this is the one, this is it.
Yeah.
We try to pick and choose, especially with the numbers. If we know they're out there doing robberies, we think the guy's doing a lot of robberies or a lot of burglaries, car thefts. we want to get those because that guy might be doing 20 burglaries a month. So we want to get that. That person that we think's the one-timer, the kid who took change out of a car or something,
Right.
that's the one, that, okay, we'll send that through.
No, my
normal.
bigger concern are the guns and the drugs.
Guns, drugs,
offenders, those are the ones-
violent crime, robberies, and those get priority. But a lot of times those same people are also the ones, it's a lot easier to catch somebody selling drugs and catch them doing a murder or a shooting. And a lot of times we think, I've arrested that guy 5 times, and then he does a murder, he goes away. But you can't look at it like that. They take it, just like a hospital ER, they take it on a triage
Right.
system, murders and then everything below all the way down. So we get frustrated too, believe me.
Thank you.
No, you do. Any other questions before we send them on their way and thank them very much for their time? We love our PBSO and thanks for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, commission liaison reports and comments. Let's start with District 1 tonight.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. So I was up in Orlando for 24 hours at the Florida League of Cities' first leadership class summit, and I brought back the slides to share with everybody with the permission from the Florida League of Cities. A lot of it goes over communication styles, setting clearer goals, objectives when we're trying to do like community workshops and stuff like that. So I'm going to ask Wanda to provide a copy to all of you. But in addition, going to Tallahassee, as much as I hate it, isn't a waste of time because it keeps us abreast of some of these bills. And I forwarded this to Mr. Perry and Mr. Brown this afternoon. There are a couple of bills that I want the public to know about that are flying through. And I'm talking like barely amended, rubber stamped. And if all of these bills hit, our budget needs to be greatly relooked at for the next coming year. House bill restricting enterprise fund transfers that's ready for the floor. That says would restrict a municipality from transferring utility revenues generated from serving extraterritorial customers to the municipality's general fund, meaning the college, Palm Springs, Lake Clark Shores, anybody outside of our 7 square miles. This bill would also eliminate statutorily authorized surcharges on extraterritorial water and sewer customers starting in July of 2025. I fought this bill because to me, if our residents are paying the bond for the infrastructure, our residents shouldn't be carrying the weight. I mean, I went toe-to-toe on this bill with many electeds up in Tallahassee. It's flying through, by the way. We have Senate Bill 658, which is Senate Cybersecurity Liability Bill, and this bill would exempt local governments from liability in connection with a cybersecurity event if a local entity is in its substantial compliance with the current required training. That's a good bill. Then there's a local tax ready bill for the House, and that is going to be House Bill 609. The bill would freeze the revenue and rates for local business taxes at the FY 23-24 level if you have an ordinance adopted to levy the LBTs before October 1st. Moving forward, if revenues exceed FY 23-24 level, cities will have to issue a refund to all local businesses paying the tax. That's just a snippet into that one. House sovereign immunity right now is not being considered by the House Judiciary Committee, so that's good. So that one looks like it's slowing down. It may not continue through again this year. We have the one dealing with residential building permits. That is House Bill 267 was amended and passed in its final committee of reference for a vote of 16-2. The bill's comprehensive building permit bill drastically changes the process that local governments have to go through before a building permit is approved, including significantly reducing the time frame to 30 days for residential buildings. We have the tangible property tax exemption, and this is a proposed constitutional amendment to increase the exemption on tangible personal property taxes from $25,000 to $50,000. That's in the Way and Means Committee right now. We have another one, House Bill 665, comprehensive bill dealing with advanced community permitting, dealing with the expedited approval of residential building permits. It was amended to remove the exemption for municipalities with a population of 30,000 or more. The bill now applies to municipalities with 25 acres or more of contiguous land of residential or agricultural purposes. The bills do not include a few protections for cities, including an indemnification clause and a requirement for applicants to have a performance bond of 130%. To me, what that says is it's getting rid of all the small investors, and it's going to put a big burden on them, the ones who do want to come in and do a couple small buildings. So it's giving, to me, the upper hand to the big boys. And then there's another one, the education bill for the Senate floor, that is Senate Bill 996, makes several changes to Florida's K through 12 public schools. The bill passed its final committee on a reference vote of 11-5. The bill enables private schools to establish new campuses in existing facilities such as churches or theaters, bypassing all local zoning regulations and traffic management requirements. The bill would prevent cities and counties from holding public meetings to discuss rezoning these facilities for education use and from requiring private schools to mitigate traffic impacts. These are just some of the horrible things that are happening in Tallahassee right now that will affect our 7 square miles. So going to Tallahassee isn't fun, but it's necessary because this is going to hit our finances. This is going to hit the building. This is going to be quite impactful to our 7 square miles. So before you vote, I tell everyone to look at how the people who represent you vote in Tallahassee and if they try to vote some of this. I could go on and on, but I digress. There's just a lot of bad stuff happening right now.
There are bad news on today.
District 2?
Thank you. And thank you for the update, Commissioner Malega, on some of the Tallahassee things. We have a lobbyist up there, and talking to him who follows this stuff and has for 30 years or more. And if he tells me that bill is dead in the water, that's helpful, if it's a bad bill. Or if he says that bill's going through, there's very little that we as one city out of many in Florida, and a smaller one at that, are going to be able to do to change it. I agree completely that there's been an enormous trend toward preemption where the state legislature says, sorry, cities, you don't get to rule about that anymore. We're going to decide that, and whether you like it or not, we're doing it. And they do it on all sorts of things. I'll talk in a minute about the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. All of the regional planning councils are very aware of that preemption tendency that's been with the Republicans for a while now, and nobody's happy with it at the level inside. Unfortunately, I think to your point, Commissioner Malega, that as you vote, look at what's going on. The Republicans have been very consistent about preempting local rule, and it's sort of an abstract concept that doesn't bubble to the surface that much for regular people voting, but it's a big deal. So do look at what your legislators are doing as you vote. You may notice that I'm wearing a somewhat unusual shirt today. It is a Ukrainian shirt, and I'm wearing that for 2 reasons. One, in support of Ukraine, and reminds me, see if I can find it. In that one, there is an event at the Great Lawn, 100 North Clematis Street. I believe that's part of the Meyer Amphitheater area. That is February 24th at 4 p.m. Believe in Ukraine, Act for Ukraine. So if you want to be visible, sometimes it's helpful, especially since Congress is not being very helpful in supporting financial aid to Ukraine. It might be helpful to come February 24th at 4 p.m. And in support of, indirectly, Alexei Navalny, pardon me, don't know any Russian, Navalny, his assassination, a very courageous person who spoke out against what's happening in Russia and against Putin, and deliberately, after being attempted to be poisoned, recovering in Germany for a while, decided that, no, I don't want to not work on this. I'm going back to Russia. Knew that he would be arrested as soon as he got in, which did happen, and the government has one or another way done him in. Somebody who was an opposition leader trying to bring reform to Russia. So I think we need to stand up and support people who are courageous enough to speak out when there is evil and ill in the world and do something about it. The Ukrainian shirt came from the Greek festival at St. Catherine's Orthodox Church. Very heartwarming to see Greek traditions kept very much alive in multiple generations, including some young people from here in Lake Worth who were at the head of the dance troupe. Pretty amazing stuff, and very encouraging. On the other end of the spectrum, we have world leader Netanyahu with a horrible approach of total victory, which is, as somebody named Sarah Shimon wrote 3 weeks ago, at the beginning of February, the devastation of Gaza at that point, 3 weeks ago, was at intolerable levels and getting worse. We are now looking at them wanting to do this total victory approach at the expense of a million people living in the southern end of, or not living, but tent living in the southern end of Gaza. I'm not happy about that. Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, I go once a month for that one. I really enjoy serving on that. It's a real opportunity to learn from other cities. We here, for example, have traditionally with our CDBG money, Community Development Block Grant, it's hard to come up with all the letters. Wellington used theirs. You don't have to use it for infrastructure. You can use it for services. They used theirs for Circuit, the project that we are also undertaking. They're doing it. They use CDBG money toward it. I really enjoy the broader perspective of the Regional Planning Council. As an environmental scientist, I sometimes can offer some insight, encourage some initiatives that other don't seem to bring up. And some examples relate to microplastics, wildlife corridor in Florida, and some different land use approaches. Over the weekend, it's either Friday or Saturday, I think, attended Latinos in Action with teacher Maria de la Cruz and Dr. Jose Enriquez, who actually is based in Utah, but has started this Latinos in Action program nationally. He was there at Lake Worth High School. This particular program was, they brought in a fashion designer. I believe, if I understood correctly, she offered her services for free and was at the school for a number of months working with the kids on designing clothes and actually making things, including recycling materials and using that. She had an environmental concern. The Latinos Action Program, I've been to 2 events now with them, and very high energy, very inspirational for the kids, really good. I'll ask later on, or I guess I can ask now, I would like for them to give a presentation at the March 7th meeting. Just tell us a little bit about it, so we as a community know what's some of the things happening
And
at
what group is that?
Latinos in Action at Lake Worth High School. Have some of the students. Commissioner Stokes was also there, so she may mention a little bit more about it too. I've been working for a while with 2 really inspiring educators from Guatemala that make unusual hands-on materials that I'm trying to help make that more accessible to elementary school teachers here and preschool teachers here in Lake Worth. Also, a little bit working very early stages on approaches, and that was part of my question for Captain Bear, on alcoholism and approaches in the community to try and address that. Caterpillars are ongoing. It's been a real pleasure to work with the kids and see how preschoolers and also some of the after-school kids just get really excited to see caterpillars, host plants, and any day now we should be seeing some butterflies. December it was Kunti and Atala butterflies. We're currently on passion flower and zebra longwings. Cocoon formed yesterday, and monarch caterpillars are lining up. Hey, we want in too. So fun things to do with education with kids that I'm grateful to have that opportunity.
Thank you. Commissioner Stokes?
Oh, I did have the 2 presentations that I'd like to bring to the March 7th one. The one is something from the Latinos in Action. The other one that I just talked to, you may remember that we had the Guatemalan Maya princesses here, did a procession, a little bit of a dance. So you may be aware that there was an election in Guatemala for president recently. There was a lot of tussle back and forth as to whether he was elected by a large margin, But there was a lot of resistance on the previous group that's known as being very corrupt. Didn't want him in. He did get seated. He is in and has very strong public support. I'd like to have the two princesses from the organization Maya Ikbalam and the Guatemala Maya Center come and give us a little bit of some of the, 8-minute version, 10-minute version of some of the history behind that and why this is such a big deal, as our community is very connected to that part of the world. What happens there influences us quite a bit. Thank you.
I don't know what else is on the agenda for now, but we can certainly obviously take a look at it if it's not too crowded, sure. Ms. Noakes?
Yes, so just to, well, let you know, this Saturday, February 24th, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Highland Elementary School is going to be painting their cafeteria, and they're looking for volunteers. So anyone who wants to come by and pitch in, they would greatly appreciate that. I did attend the fashion show last Saturday at Lake Worth High with my two girls and our neighbors and their two girls, and they had a blast. It was really impressive. I think Mr. Horowitz came out of retirement to take photos. He was right there at the stage, so I would love to have them do a presentation. I think it would be very visual. You could see all the, they had pictures of the students displayed in the background as they were working on the different designs, and then they had the students come out and model their own designs. It was really awesome, and then it was followed by a dinner and a dance in the cafeteria, and my girls danced with the little girl, what was his name, the head of...
The vice principal or?
No, the head of...
And
Action.
Dr. Enrique, Dr. Jose Enriquez.
Right, him and his wife were there with their little girl. So it was just great to see everybody out there having a good time. So much energy, like you said. So they could easily pull together a quick visual presentation to show off these students' hard work. So that was great. I think, I didn't see you there, so we must have been passing, attend the Greek festival and ran into quite a few residents from Lake Worth Beach. So not just the neighbors I went there to go see, but a lot. And it just reminds me, I know Mayor, second term goals, it would be great to get that multicultural.
International Day?
Yes, because we have pockets from all over here, and they are celebrating their cultures, and they're doing it, but
Yeah.
in West Palm. And
Well,
so,
we
like,
had one for the centennial, when I did the centennial stuff, we had one and it was great. It was, oh my gosh, we had the Finns, the Irish, the kids from, for the children. We had Irish dancers, Bogota, we had Bolivian dancers. It was great, and it was wonderful. They all sold their food. It was really a lovely thing. So I would love to do that again.
yeah, we ate way too much pistachio.
Oh, yeah.
It was massive, and of course, each girl needed their own plate. So it was a good time. It was a little rainy, but it didn't stop them. So that's it for me today.
Okay. Mr. Diaz?
Oh boy, a lot's happening, I guess, with a lot of us. Yeah, so starting with, I was able to attend a couple SAC meetings. I usually, pretty much almost always go to South Grade, but recently I went to Lake Worth Middle, and South Grade is always interesting because it's a school that needs a lot and certainly has a lot of challenges. And one thing that I thought was really helpful was they had a presentation from school district police discussing threats of mostly, when the kids have a cell phone, what can happen to them basically was kind of the theme. And I learned a lot. And apparently our kids are really, really good with technology, and the parents really need to be on it. That kind of stuff is really helpful. Lake Worth Middle, another school that certainly has its own challenges and quite a few asks. They don't have, not a whole lot out of that meeting, but one of the coolest things regarding a need for volunteers. I see that's come up for a bit, and volunteering is always super helpful. And they have an opportunity to help them out as a fundraiser. And I have friends that do this for nonprofits for other things, but they need probably like 20 to 30 volunteers to volunteer for Sunfest, where you're gonna sling drinks, basically, serve beers to the people. And that's always a great volunteer opportunity, because if you're going to go to Sunfest anyways, it comes with a cost, and if you volunteer for a few hours, you get in and you get to enjoy Sunfest and help out the middle school. So I'll get more details on that and be able to share that, but I think that's a really, really cool opportunity, because I know there are friends of mine that do that similarly to other music events throughout the state. It usually generates a significant amount of funding, so it's pretty exciting. Speaking of volunteering, I joined our partners at the county at Jewel Steinhardt Cove to do a cleanup, and there weren't many of us, maybe like 8 volunteers, but these volunteers were like the best volunteers I've ever seen on a planet, because we removed 1,600 pounds of trash, and most of it was like beer cans. So thank you to PBSO, because they're Jewel Steinhardt Cove. I've been working on that project for years now, and it does have a camping issue for sure, and it's really unfortunate to come across people in that situation. But also, if they're building what is essentially a miniature landfill, it's just unacceptable. And PBSO came out and did what they had to do in a very professional and good way. And you'd be surprised at the stuff. A lot of people think, a lot of the garbage, cigarette butts and things like that, are definitely from the road, of people tossing it out of their window. But so much of it just washes in. Like, one of the weirdest things was, I don't know what it's called. I think Jamie would know. It's a big plastic green box, and for sure you've seen this out in like parks. It's a big box that covers infrastructure, usually like communications equipment, and they're like 3-4 feet tall. And there isn't one of those that exists anywhere. We use the metal boxes, and like, where does this stuff come from? So it's pretty amazing how far this stuff travels. It's a huge problem, but it's needed. And I had Aldo, my 6-month-old, with me. He was in his little carrier facing forward, and one of the things that was discussed, the county said he's probably the youngest volunteer that ever showed up at one of these things. And the discussion was, it's really great, because often people know about the garbage issue, and there's really no better way to come away with an understanding than to volunteer your time to do a cleanup or do that kind of maintenance work. And then on top of that, you're volunteering. So it's kind of good for the soul. You're doing something that is beneficial for the community, and it has a very visual impact. I mean, they had multiple trucks and they were all filled. So really awesome. What else? And then of course I had my other more involved professional meetings, starting with the TPA governing board. We welcomed our assistant city manager, Troy, technical advisory committee. We renewed Jamie Brown. No conflict there. Welcome aboard. Super helpful. And in Captain Bear's event, you mentioned, we should really give away lights and stuff. Good news, we're already doing that. So TPA, in partnership with the CRA and a couple other, I think, Safe Kids Palm Beach County, we're doing on March 13th at Hatch, 2:45 to 3:45. It's a prompt schedule. I know it's a narrow window, but what's going to happen is bicycle safety is obviously the theme. So there's going to be a lot of literature, learning, but there's also free bicycle helmets, making sure that they fit, reflective armbands, and free lights for bicycles. And you're absolutely right. It's such an important.
Are you guys going to set up like a little thing for them to drive their bikes around, like a crash course?
I don't know. I would imagine being only an hour long, they're probably going to try and shuffle people through and get them fitted, but that's not a bad idea. A little like driving course for how to operate a bicycle safely.
And that's March 14, 2:45?
13th.
13th.
13th, yeah.
Good, yeah.
And it's at Hatch, 2:45. And so then my other meetings, Lake Worth Lagoon Initiative, we discussed legislative funding for environmental projects as well. And thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Malega. every session, you know, even before as a commissioner, I was an environmental lobbyist, and I still do that, some of that work to this day. And every session when I talk to my legislator friends and other lobbyists, we're like, man, it can't possibly get worse. And then it does.
It does.
And then, and then they do things, not only the bills you're mentioning, but now the new hot new trend is some of these committees are attaching amendments to bills, and that makes it really hard. I mean, we have 10 figures. It's like you're on a sinking boat and you're just plugging holes, and then more holes develop, and we're all out of fingers to keep track of everything that's being snuck through. So,
And I didn't even bring up the one for 16 and 17-year-olds to work 40 hours a week.
oh
Yeah,
gosh,
please.
yeah, roofing in July, what could go wrong? Yeah,
Don't give them any water, that,
yeah.
another bill.
So yeah, that's a mess. And luckily the county is good at getting some funding for environmental projects. And on that note, I've brought this up before and it got pushed back a couple weeks, but any day now you're going to start seeing these really big barges slowly working their way down from Peanut Island with big piles of fill, and they might stop at Old Bridge Park, but then they're going to start a major construction project on the other side of the lagoon, a little bit outside of Lake Worth Beach, but we're going to see it. It's within view, and that's going to be a few new islands called Bonefish Cove, and it's pretty epic because it's going to create, I think, 22 acres of habitat.
Where now? Where is it going to be?
So like, you know, the little peninsula on the island on the other side where the condo is, like just south of there,
Oh,
basically.
okay.
And so, you know, it's going to bring even more birds. And, you know, our birders love Snook Islands and Bryant Park, and it's just going to get better because they're going to work together. And similarly, the county is working on, if you remember years ago, there used to be docks at Old Bridge Park. And part of the agreement of them using our Old Bridge Park to stage like their barges and whatnot, they removed some docks, and part of the agreement was, hey, you're supposed to bring back docks. So they're going after a grant. They're waiting to hear back pretty soon. So you should see those docks coming back at some point, which is pretty exciting because it's another fishing spot. You know, I love that. So not that you can't fish off of the seawall, but it just makes it a little bit better. So happy that's coming through. We had a little bit of a snag on paperwork where we had to dig up some old documents or something, but we got that going. And then similarly, Water Resources Task Force. It was my first time sitting representing League of Cities on Palm Beach County Water Resources Task Force, and learned a lot. So one of the things on the agenda was PFAS, and I mentioned that in the last meeting, and it's colossally big problem. It's literally everywhere, and it never breaks down. It's a pollutant. It's really harmful to health. It's in people's drinking water. And what I learned was, luckily, the best way to remove PFAS is reverse osmosis. So we're already ahead of the game. And you know, that's really beneficial. I know I often get questions about like the quality of our drinking water, and it really is top notch because of that RO system, and it's just going to get better. There's some lawsuits involving particular nonprofits that are going after companies that make this, basically, and basically the end result is there might even be like some money available to do some testing and more work and whatnot. So that's pretty exciting. And then the other thing that we talked about, both in the Lake Worth Lagoon Initiative and Water Resources Task Force, is something that I've been working on for years, which is the Lake Okeechobee discharging. And it's going to be, it's a problem, obviously, every year. And the thing that's good about it, and I don't know what the answer is, but I suspect in the near future you might hear me ask for something, which is to help support our county, specifically like our Environmental Resources Management Office. And nobody's happy about this, and nobody's happy because we're taking on polluted water. But this time, so most of the time it usually comes down to C51 and affects us directly at Spillway Park. This time it's actually being sent down by request from many of us actually to Boynton, because that that canal is almost in line with the Boynton Inlet, so hopefully that does a little bit better overall for the lagoon. But overall, the bottom line is we're not happy because the environmental laws that's changing how Lake Okeechobee is managed, which is right now we're operating on a set of laws called LORS 2008, Lake Okeechobee Regulation Schedule. And the new one that's coming called LOSUM, Lake Okeechobee System Operating Manual, still kind of being worked on, tied up by a lawsuit, but they're very similar. And we sought to get major improvements in LOSUM because previously our lagoon and our spillway park, C51, was really abused, basically. And there wasn't a lot of transparency and honesty in what we're taking through there. And so I know a number of us have provided comments through the LOSUM NEPA process, National Environmental Policy Act, which requires public input. And all of us, especially the county, felt like in that process, our comments weren't heard. And now, what we're seeing now, because of the flexibility that the Corps of Engineers and the district have in terms of how they manage the water, is we're being given a brunt of the punishment that isn't quite as fair as the other northern estuaries. And so I can have more detail on that, but it's a hyper complex hydrology issue and infrastructure and environmental law. And it takes many years to figure out, but
Yeah.
the bottom line is we're being dumped on.
Yeah.
And we're angry.
In layman's terms.
Yeah.
Seems to be a thing.
Okay, great. So that's it?
That's it.
Okay, just kind of real briefly. Interesting weekend. They had the Art Wars at the Hatch, which was very interesting. We had our local artists doing live art as the night went on. It was beautiful. And then from there, I went to the Lakewood Playhouse. There was a celebration of Melissa St. John, who is a very glamorous drag queen. It was a drag show, but she has also committed her life to social issues, women in violence and different things. So it was very interesting. And then on Monday, yesterday, I got to go over to Bryant Park. I saw Commissioner Malega over here as well for it was an outdoor thing for the kids for the children. And it was really good. It was exercise outside. They had lunch out there. It was an amazing, beautiful day. Sadly, when they got there in the morning to set up, the playground, the pavilion was kind of a mess from the night before, which is an ongoing problem. This coming week is the Street Painting Festival, and I want to thank ahead of time the staff that has stood up to come to get it going, because we all know it was a bit of a challenge this year, but it's going to be great. The weather's going to be fabulous, and we're all going to see lots of stuff. And then on the 2nd and the 3rd, Midnight Sun Festival at Bryant Park, which is the annual Finish Festival. So if you have a wife that you'd like to carry around, there's your opportunity. Some more updates, a couple of things with the legislature. There's a Florida League of Cities on the different legislative committees. We have updates on every Monday morning. And the mobility, there's a mobility bill which is going to, there's been a conflict between the counties and the cities about who collects the mobility money, the impact fees. So there was a big lawsuit, blah, blah, blah. And so they're coming to an agreement now, it seems, a compromise where if we are the people that issue the building permit, we are the people that get to collect the mobility tax and keep it. So that'll be a good boon to to us. And then there's one which is kind of weird and people are like picking up on it, which is the state wants to go after cities. If we let people sleep in the park, we're going to get in trouble. It's very bizarre, and I think it's going to be challenged right away. But that's just something that's really one of the more bizarre ones. On the 28th at 6 o'clock at the Lucerne and L Street, the mural, the cottage mural, there's going to be a ribbon cutting for it, which is going to be really wonderful. We're all invited. The beach playground equipment, I say that easy, is going to be here right after the Street Painting Festival. So there's been that empty spot up there at the beach for a long time. The equipment there was some choices a while back. We put it on order and it's coming in. It's going to be installed right after the Street Painting Festival. I met with the DOT the folks that do the DOT work this morning about the 6th Avenue South. They're going to close the 6th Avenue South, I don't know if it was, I think it's the FEC, the one farther out, past 95, for 6 days in March to redo all the safety work. So that's 6th Avenue South is going to be completely closed. You can get onto 95, but you can't go past 95. So that's 6 days. I think I have pretty much it. I would like to know, we had ordered, I think, Jamie, we had ordered some, being at Bryant Park yesterday, the shade sails. Do we think we're going to have them in time for the summer over the playground? And it's not a pop quiz. I just, if you have when we meet tomorrow, maybe you could tell me.
Yeah, I'll check with
Okay, thanks.
Chris Hanna.
Yeah, I wouldn't pop quiz you, but that's it. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night. We're going home now. Okay, city managers report.
Good evening. So a few things tonight. Obviously, as you mentioned, Madam Mayor, street painting. I'm coming up this weekend. It's been a very easy, smooth process this year.
I love a man
Kind
with
of
a
picking
sense
up
of
the pieces
humor.
in the middle. But again, it's going to be a fun weekend, and the weather's going to be, as you mentioned, really nice this weekend. So looking forward to that. You just mentioned, obviously, the tracks, the closing of that. I'm working with our webmaster right now because what we want to put on the website is we have so many different DOT projects that are currently ongoing, that are coming up in 25, 26, 27. So we want to put a section on the website that basically kind of summarizes each of these projects. It actually has the DOT project number, so someone will be able to actually click on those, see what the scope of those projects are, what the actual timing is of
Yeah.
that project and when they're happening, because as you know, we have 3 consecutive years for Federal Highway. We've got Lake and Lucerne starting
It's
next
going to be
week. So,
nuts.
yeah, so
Yeah, at that
with all the
meeting-
questions that people are having, it just
Yeah.
seems like an easy way to just put on the website.
That's a great
That way
idea.
we can kind of have that all out there. We did have the public meeting, virtual and in person, last Thursday for Lake and Lucerne. I made a phone call today, and I also am getting a meeting set up this week with DOT to kind of go through their
Great.
sequence of construction and everything, because I'm a little concerned about how they're looking at going about this. They did have a pre-construction meeting yesterday morning when the city was off on the holiday. So convenient. I had family obligations, so I could not attend on the day off.
And which project was that? Because I went to the
This
one
is for
that's.
Lake and Lucerne,
Lake Lucerne, okay.
for Lake and Lucerne. So that's coming up this week. Our new, Tiana McKay, who is our new Leisure Service Director, she started last Monday, full-time, and got thrown right into the middle of everything.
Okay.
Congratulations, welcome. Street painting, all these other
Trial
things
by
going
fire.
on. Trial by fire. Obviously, last week, you all attended the WMOTA presentation
Oh,
at the
so
CRA meeting. We are working with them right now to get some dates set up and some blocks of time. So our electeds and also CRA board members and everything, so we can get down there.
And public, I've been in
Yeah.
touch with them as well to let.
So,
to let
yeah.
the public do that as well.
So we can get down there and some other people can see what some of you have already seen, which is really
Amazing.
impressive. So that's working. I wanted to attend tomorrow morning. Mayor Keith James does this roundtable series called Community Conversations.
Yeah.
Mayor for West Palm. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the Mandel Public Library, 3rd floor, downtown Clematis. He's doing this whole homeless discussion. So they're looking at, obviously, people think it's a Lake Worth issue. It's not. It's not even a county issue. It's a national issue. They have a roundtable panel discussion tomorrow. Unfortunately, we have our kind of last logistics meeting for a couple hours tomorrow for street painting for this upcoming weekend, so I'm not going to be able to make it, but I just wanted to throw that out there in case anyone is available.
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock tomorrow morning at the Mandel Library, which is on Clematis, 411 Clematis on the 3rd floor in the auditorium. I know James Green with the county, there'll be some other people that'll be part of that discussion, but I unfortunately will not be able to make that, but it will be interesting to see kind of how other municipalities are dealing with a lot of the issues that we're dealing with, because as I said, it's not just a Lake Worth Beach issue.
Is Mr.
So-
Perry able to go?
Room 304.
Mr. Perry will be, you are going, okay.
Okay.
Room 304, is that what you?
It is in the auditorium.
Oh, the
the
auditorium.
3rd floor auditorium.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So that's going on tomorrow. Beach playground. That is going to be happening at the beginning of April. So obviously we are redoing the playground up at the beach. So that's going to be about a 2-week process. I will give everyone a heads up before that's happening, because they're basically going to have to take 4 parking spaces for staging and some other things. And I know, Commissioner, I'm sorry. But the whole point being that hopefully after that is complete, we'll have a new playground up there as well. That's all I got.
I forgot, Jamie,
It's-
we met with James Green
Correct.
last week.
Yes.
Do you want to update on anything about that conversation?
Well, we're looking at having him come and do a presentation. And we also had, involved PBSO and some other things as well. So we have some things upcoming, obviously, but
Presentation about what?
about countywide, what things the county is doing as far as the homeless issue. That's why I really wanted to find out what's going on tomorrow with West Palm Beach. But I know in talking with Captain Bear, PBSO is ramping up a few things. I think they're about to do, he said, 20 teams this upcoming year. They're starting with the Glades, and he's trying to get us on tap to be second. Just need to get more information on this and how they're going about doing it. But it seems like it's a really good thing. So just getting more information now, and we'll obviously be bringing that forward once we have more from the county. But a lot of things upcoming. My goal is to survive the weekend.
Right.
And
Talk to you
then-
next week.
And then come Monday, when we take a huge sigh because we've had an amazing weekend.
Absolutely.
We can then jump right back in everything. So that is all I have
And can
this
I-
evening.
Sure.
I forgot during my liaison report that we did meet with James Green. He had several people on the call, people who are part of the county's homeless outreach team who've been monitoring Bryant Park, and there seemed to have been a little miscommunication. But all the agencies are connecting and kind of getting on the same page. And they said that they'll be continuing monitoring, maybe help us be able to clean up some of the things that we're seeing there, and working with PBSO. And they have 2 officers, I can't remember their names, that specialize in dealing with the homeless population in a, non-aggressive way, and that they're going to be spending more time at the park.
It's a county program.
It's all county, yeah.
Good. Okay, moving right along. City Attorney, do you have anything to say? Very short. Very short. No comment. Thank you. Public participation of non-agenda items and consent. Do we have any blue cards?
Doesn't matter.
We're about to get one. Madam Clerk, I know you have at least one from, thank you. You might as well stay up here, Todd. Go ahead.
Todd Velez, 530 North G. I'd like to point out Jamie Brown's new look of the boy next door. I hope we keep up with that. And I'd like to point out some special DNA in Lake Worth. Todd Townsend is a descendant of the Orville Wright and Wilbur Wright brothers, and we see their planes, inventions flying over us 24/7. You can come and give an Anglo-Saxon bow. And I'd like to point out VICT, V-I-C-T, means conquered. Evicted, convicted, with great conviction, and victory, victim, victimo, victima, and may you all be invictus, which is can't be conquered in 2 weeks. The update that was just given earlier, the 900 block of Dixie, that was 22/23 New Year's Eve, that they were relatively new. And a call went in for something else. It was a pregnant prostitute went by street named Daisy, and she was being hassled, and it was up by 10th in North Dixie. And they were having a lot of trouble. Also about that address at that Kava bar, which was having a party, which was well past the time, so the point is a hotspot, and that was their first call. The 24-hour laundromat, ring around the collar with a K, which is become a joke, is at 1401. I spoke to Commissioner Kim about that. And the back door, none of the 24-hour laundromat, or none of the laundromats have access for your back door for the customers to do as they please, which then spills over into the black hole of every neighborhood, the alleys. And you can do whatever you want. And that, of course, spills over into the hospital, First Nazarene, which since I'm there, no one stays there. So I'm throwing people off every single day, hours on end. And then they spill over into the vacant land just east, which is has a few political signs out front, but I don't know who owns that, but that's the other black hole. You can do whatever you want there, but not north, which is the Nazarene Church. With the call length time, it's usually 7 to 14 minutes. If you call 911 Got Talent, it's an audition. That's not my coinage, that's other people from neighborhoods and churches and schools that, what's it, an audition? I have to call 911. I call it a cringe call. Oh, just turn the phone. This is the information, end of it, you know, and you have to really song and dance, get something going on. My suggestion, as something was referenced today, maybe they cluster. They're not spread out throughout the city.
Thank you, that's time.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's the only oh, we have one more comment coming up. It's okay. It's all right. No problem. Take a deep breath. Just your name and your name and your address first.
Yes, okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Wayne Whitfield. My address is 5620 Northwest 3rd Terrace, sorry. That is actually in Boca Raton. The purpose of me wanting to speak and address all of you, I have a potential client located at the
Can you please speak into the mic? We can't hear you.
Yes, thank you. My potential client is the Eco Center located at 1005 Lake Avenue, if you're familiar with that environmentally friendly green building. So the challenge is that my client, John Davey and Yasmin, Anna Yasmin, would like to place solar on the top of the building to help offset their electricity bill. But that's not really the issue. It's more to be part of the green movement and the green building that would complement, this would complement. The problem is that Lake Worth Utilities limits the size of solar to only 10 kilowatts. With this, they're only offsetting 15% of their entire electric bill by doing the maximum size of 64 kilowatts. That's only $1,200 that would be going green from the $8,000 a month utility bill with Lake Worth Utilities. So I'm trying to see how I get Lake Worth Utilities to make an exception to partner with the Eco Center to help promote even the city of Lake Worth utilities as well to promote environmentally green buildings. And this could be the flagship of Lake Worth.
If you write your number down, I'm in the City Hall tomorrow. If you write your number down, I can call you and we can talk about it.
Okay,
Here.
fantastic.
What did you say the maximum amount you could get on that
10.
rooftop was?
64 kilowatts.
64?
That's 160 panels.
And that's what percent of your total usage, you said?
15% of the electric bill.
Yeah, I've gotten a
And
few
right now-
calls looking to increase it.
Yeah, right now, their maximum is 10 kilowatts, which only represents 2% of
Yeah.
the bill. So, but thank you very much. I appreciate your support.
And could you put your last name and I'll get it from,
I got it. Cool.
if you
Great.
could
Thank you very much.
drop a card,
Appreciate it.
that's
I'll
important.
call. Oops. All right, great. And I need my pen back.
Oh, yeah.
Don't take my
Oh, my
pen.
pen's blue too, see?
Well, see,
Here, can I?
thank you very much.
Thank you. Just keep them coming.
I have somebody I'm talking with as well. Thank you. All right, moving right along. Madam Clerk, do you have any? You have one, I think.
I have one comment, and it's the only comment I have for the evening.
Okay.
Sam Smith, 109 North Palmway. I was disappointed to hear the mayor and other commissioners discuss at the last commission meeting abandoning public-owned areas along the Intercoastal and other areas along South Lakeside because of problems with homeless people camping in these areas. As you might know, I am very interested in recreational areas and parks since my neighborhood, Parrot Cove, has absolutely none. While the south side of the city has 2 large parks, the city should not be giving up these smaller spaces, which should be utilized as pocket parks to give residents access to the intercoastal, to put in kayaks, paddle boats, or to fish. The idea that city leadership would give up these valuable mini parcels of land is ridiculous. Even more ridiculous is the city considering giving up this valuable public-owned land because PBSO will simply not do their job and police these areas. The solution is that the city needs to direct PBSO to do their jobs for which they receive more than half our city budget. On the same topic, there have been repeated car break-ins over the last month on North Ocean Breeze, North Palmway, and North Lakeside. While PBSO has been called repeatedly regarding this spike in crime in Parrot Cove, they have failed to increase patrols, or should I say patrol at all in this area. Again, the lack of response by PBSO when they receive more than half of our taxpayer-funded budget is infuriating. That's the only comment I have for this evening.
Thank you. Okey doke. Approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have-
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Aye.
All passes unanimously. New business, interlocal agreement with the CRA for funding of road improvements between Lake and Lucerne Avenues from B to H Streets.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Wait,
Oh,
I know that I know that nobody's here for the CRA, but
I'm here.
I just want to take a minute to say thank you to the CRA board for hearing our request and our concerns about getting these roads done and partnering with us, because this was a big ask. It's not a little bit of money. And I just, if you're listening out there, CRA board and staff, we appreciate you.
okay. All in favor?
Sorry, who
Aye.
made the second? I couldn't hear.
I did, Commissioner Diaz.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okey doke. B, ratification of emergency purchase order with Nextran Truck Centers for the procurement of a 2025 Mack roll-off truck. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it passes. Thank you very much. Once again, you've been eloquent in your presentation. Now, the last one is the draft request for proposals of executive recruitment services. I think I'm having a deja vu. Okay. So let's have, do you want to make a presentation? Great.
Valentina Sustera, Assistant Finance Director for Purchasing. I don't have a presentation, basically just an request for proposal. We're looking for the executive recruitment services for the city manager. We have set up, the RFP is developed to set up evaluation criteria, and then the requirements for what we are looking into this search firm to basically go out nationally and look for the city manager.
Okay, so this is essentially, just for the public, this is essentially the first step in getting and hiring, in looking at firms that are offering to work with us to hire a city manager.
That's correct.
Okay.
This is just for the search firm to look for,
Right.
yes.
I just want to keep everything straight, because God knows, once it gets out there. Mr. McVoy?
Yeah, thank you. I would perhaps speak up on the use of the word just. I'm always suspicious when somebody says, this is going to be really easy, you just do this. It's usually a tip-off that you're looking at a fair amount of work. So the issue is, just or otherwise, is looking for a firm that will help us find a long-term city manager, which is separate from the review process that the commission will go through with whatever they bring to us. Here are my thoughts on it, for what they're worth, as part of the commission, and that is, we are, I think, recognized by our, as a commission, by our residents for a long time. We are a city that is different from its neighbors. We have various things that every city has to deal with, but we also have a character that is recognized. If you go to the planning councils, they'll know, oh yeah, Lake Worth, they're quite different from a lot of other places. I think that, and I think in general, in positive ways, we are more historic, we are more artistic, we tend to be more creative. So I think it was at the CRA meeting that I think it might have been Carla Bloxon who mentioned that we tend to have more opinions here. There was quite a bit of laughter at that one, so I think that met with agreement. My concern is that as a city that is different, I've always seen that as our competitive advantage, and that's why I have consistently not been in favor of diminishing our historic qualities or diminishing our architectural difference from other places. Things that make us more like other cities, I think, set us back economically. Things that enhance what make us different help us economically as well as just the character that we'd like to have. I think that requires a particular kind of city manager. It requires somebody who has a lot of skills, quite a bit of experience, but also a lot of creativity to say, okay, I'm not coming in to run a city that's, like many, many other cities and not different. It's coming in to run a place that really wants to enhance its differences, that everybody recognizes is under a lot of development just by where we are on the map. That development pressure tends to go in the direction of reducing our differences to other places. So one has to be creative about how you deal with finances of the city, some degree of development, but development that keeps our character. Those are somewhat complicated needles to thread. So I think it's important that our language that is looking for a firm states some of that and makes it clear that we are looking for something a little out of the ordinary. I think that helps us. I think it's fair to the applicants that, look, if you're looking for a run-of-the-mill city that's about 30,000, of which there's probably quite a number in the US, we're not very run-of-the-mill. And if you come with sort of average outlooks and things, you're probably not going to be very happy here and probably not very successful. We want somebody who is going to be successful at doing innovative things to lead us, help move us forward. Maybe not lead us, because the commission provides most of that, but someone who can help be the executive side of that. So I would like to see a little bit more language. I noticed that it's probably boilerplate language that showed up a couple times in there of time is of the essence. I would take that out. Yes, the deadline for putting in your application, whatever it is, such and such a day, certainly make it clear that if you miss the deadline, that's just standard RFP application stuff. That's fine. But I was a little concerned to see time as the other thing. I don't think we're in a big hurry. We are much more put much more importance on what kind of person is coming rather than that we got to solve the problem right away. So I would modify that a little bit also to help make a distinction. Certainly, getting your application in on time, that's fine. But otherwise, I don't think we are in a big hurry. We have a good situation with an interim manager that is stabilized. A lot of things are moving forward. We want to take our time to do it right, as we've sometimes said up here, rather than, we're in a big rush to get somebody tomorrow.
Well, I don't think time is of the essence means we're in a rush. I think, I'll defer to our attorney to talk about that.
Yeah, when we talk about that, time of the essence means time to submit the proposal. We were thinking 30 days from now, once you approve
Can you
this.
please speak into the mic?
Sure, once you approve the format, then Valentina will get it out on the street and people have 30 days firms to respond. So that's what the time is of the essence, that they must respond in a timely way, submit their proposal to be the search firm. To your point about the city being unique, we tried to cover that a little bit on pages 15 and 16, which talk about the scope of services. And so once whoever it is who's selected, they're responsible, for example, as first paragraph number 1, develop a complete understanding of the city and its current needs, review the city's goals and objectives, become familiar with all areas, participate in scheduled one-on-one meetings with the mayor and commissioners prior to developing the city manager hiring profile. So we try to anticipate that you want to let this firm or person that's selected know that we're unique, and this is what we're looking for. And then on the second, on page 16, we're talking about the, information about the city. And it's not just the run-of-the-mill, sure, it says we're 43,000 residents and 7 square miles, but also it talks about historic, vibrant community, which embodies racial, ethnic, economic, philosophical diversity, excellent quality of life. We have a true downtown, so art gallery. So we try to even put in this the search firms that are responding, recognizing that Lake Worth is a unique place. It's different. It's not your run-of-the-mill city. So we try to address that in a couple of spots, but the real key is going to be with whoever you ultimately select. I'm sure when you're interviewing that firm, those people, you're going to say, hey, this person gets us more than this person does. And then once you select somebody, that's really when the hard work begins, because then you're going to have your one-on-ones and then your group meeting saying, this is what we're looking for. You have to go out and find us this unicorn.
And I think we'd be hard pressed to find a city that would say they are not unique. I think every city has their own uniqueness. We just have our own. Mr. Oaks?
Okay, I was gonna address page 15 second, but let's go there. 16. So, with the description of the city and the city manager role and everything there, I know that this is, I think a lot of this came from what we had put out last, and I noticed some gaps in the city. Oh, no?
We really updated this.
Okay, there's a.
Jen really made all.
Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you. There was, I remember the vibrant, and I know that we described our city well the last time too. But on page, I think I know the answer. I just want clarification and confirmation where we talk about the city manager position. There was a description of what our city manager would be responsible for, I think in the second paragraph. This is just kind of a sample, but once we hire the firm, we would actually be working through the administrator or manager profile with them. So we can, at that time, we'll be able to elaborate or clean up any of that as a group here, right?
Again, this is to select the
Right.
firm. Once that person or firm is selected, that's really when you need to impart to them what you're looking for. in
Right.
The next person.
Yeah, when I saw this in here, I'm like, oh, this is just a starter, I guess, for the firm to understand. I had a question just on page 6 when we were talking about the evaluation and award, or, I mean, I think that's just the header, so it's probably really the top of 7. There's a lot of options for who will be evaluating the proposals that come in. Do we have a general idea of who would be on that evaluation committee and who's going to be kind of going through that?
You.
Oh, it's us. Okay.
Now, of course, if we get 20 proposals,
Right.
then staff would do what they normally do and weed
Vet
out
them.
folks that are truly, if I applied to play shortstop for the Yankees, I think I'm gonna be weeded out before I get to the field. So, if we get a lot of proposals, and my guess is you're gonna get somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 7.
Right.
It seems to be the number of firms that do this, and we're not gonna weed out anybody unless we really think, no way. Otherwise, you're gonna be able to interview the firms that apply and have those kind of questions. I think similar to the way FAU, we talked about the way you selected FAU to do the housing study, you were involved in that process a lot. And I think we kind of see you, unless you don't feel that way, but I think the sense we've gotten is you need to be involved in picking the firm that's gonna pick your next city
Yeah.
manager.
But there will be a committee. I saw that it's, it says, if we utilize the evaluation committee, you'll be ranking the things and doing the back work and kind of giving us the score of,
I'll explain.
Okay, thank you.
The process. And we do this on every request for proposal. So once we receive the proposals, procurement, my division, we're going to evaluate, make sure everything is in order, everybody is qualified and everything else. Then those proposals, depending on how many we're going to have, we are going to establish evaluation committee meeting, which means that we're going to meet publicly, you with me and probably city clerk and city attorney, and you're going to go through the process of evaluation. Before that, you're going to receive a training of how to evaluate that and how to go through that process. If we are potentially going to shortlist and then do the presentations, if we have, up to 5 proposals, depending on how many proposals we're going to have. We're going to invite all the consultants to provide proposals for you. Once you listen to their proposals, you're gonna have an opportunity to ask them questions, and then you're going to evaluate them, score them, and then in the end, make a decision of who is the best company.
It's gotta be a special meeting.
It's gonna be a special meeting because we will probably want to have a decision made at that
I
time.
was gonna say, we'll score them right then and there after the
Yes.
presentations. It's not like we have to have another meeting to come back,
And then we
okay.
can have it more short, yeah. So
Um,
it all depends on how many proposals.
right.
If we get 10 proposals, we might have to have 2 meetings and then shortlist and then do the presentations, unless you would particularly want to do 10 presentations. They could be several-hour meeting, so.
I do think if we get that many, it might be worth having some guidance from our procurement office on here are the ones that really rose to the top versus us having to sort through all 10 of them. And the other reason is that when I was reading up on best practices around this, getting references. So I saw later on, we really describe that we want to know the success rate, how many of the people that you've worked with, how many of you actually successfully placed a city with a city manager, and how long have they stayed, and have they been in that position? And then also recommendations that we might want to call around to some of the cities to see how they felt. And if we have 10 firms and we're trying to do that background.
I think once we receive proposals, Glenn and I can probably catch up and then see on the first meeting on how would you want to do that. I think that would be the best way. If we have only 3 to 4,
Right,
yeah.
I expect probably what Glenn said, 3 to 7. I would say probably 3 to 5. We don't get that much interest. We will leave it out for a month. Then we can kind of look at the process and then outline the process for you. You will receive all the documents, all the instructions from me. We will go step-by-step process. You will receive the documents that you can use to score it and to make comments. And it's not a complicated process.
Okay. And then the last thing on page 15, I know we only listed 3, and these are just, where am I? Page 15. Under number 3, include advertising, but not limited, and I understand, and it was underlined. But I'd like to include, we have the Florida League of Cities, we can include National League of Cities as well, and then the National Forum for Black Public Administrators and the International Hispanic Network as well. So I'd like to have those included if it pleases the rest of the commission. And I think that's it. I do think the evaluation criteria makes sense, and the way we weighted it and everything there, so, thank you.
Thank you. So do we have a motion and a second? Have we had a motion and a second?
Motion to approve with the corrected changes from Commissioner Stokes.
And more can be added, I mean, of the groups that you reach out to. Yeah, okay. So I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
I do that for you almost
Second.
every time.
Yeah, I know you
Mayor.
do.
Second.
Thank you so much. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.